and this is going to be Sam, and he's going to round off the show. Hello, Sam.
Hey, Bart. How you doing?
How's it going now? Where are you played out of, Sam?
This hand is from Philadelphia Live.
Philly Live. Have you called? I think you've called in the show before, haven't you?
Yeah, I have.
Philly Live.
Yeah.
Do you play at parks too?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, and Mike and I know each other well.
Oh, cool. So what's the deal? Just give us a little, just because I'm curious. Is Philly Live like more kind of, I was going to say, I wouldn't use the word rugged. Does it happen to be like a little bit dirtier? I'm just going to give my take. I literally don't know. But from just the understanding from Mike about the game quality, there's not that many games, nowhere near the amount of games that are available at parks, which is almost like the Commerce of the East Coast. But the games kind of tend to be a little bit better. It might bring in some more recreational money. Maybe it's not as clean as parks. Is that accurate at all?
Yeah, I think that's decently accurate.
Yeah. Bathrooms might not be as clean. Something like that. You know what I'm saying, when like one room dominates and there's got a small room, but sometimes you can get better games. All right. So what's the game size that you're playing here?
This is 2-5.
All right. 2-5.
And yeah, that's another thing. Like sometimes 5-10 will get going at live, but 2-5 is usually the biggest game.
So, and how deep are you here for this hand?
We are 1100 effective.
All right. 1100 effective. Full ring game?
Yeah. 8-handed.
Okay. 8-handed. Oh, nice setup. And is it a 1K cap too?
Yeah, it's 1K cap.
Okay. All right.
And there's a $10 under the gun straddle this hand, but it's not on often. There's just one or two guys that are like randomly straddling.
So it's occasional.
Yeah.
And again, I think that makes a pretty big difference whether or not, I mean, you can actually, I mean, there are setups, well, in casinos where it's just a straight 3-blind game. You don't even consider it. It's just 3 blinds, right? But then there's games where there's a straddle and maybe it's on most of the time. And I think that changes things versus just the occasional straddle. So all these little different, these are sort of different. So this is the occasional straddle is on.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I can just get into it.
Yep. Go ahead.
It starts with the low jack limps.
Open limps.
Yep.
For 10.
Yes.
All right.
And then we are in the cutoff with ace of diamonds, queen of hearts.
Ace of diamonds, queen of hearts. Okay.
And we raise to 45.
To 45. I like it. So you're just sort of adding, maybe you open to 35, you add the limp size. Okay. Yep.
And then the guy in the straddle calls.
All right. So straddle calls.
And this is like the main villain for the hand. And he's like a pretty like recreational player. You definitely want to play with him.
Okay.
Like that type of person. Yeah. And then the low jack calls after limping.
So straddle calls. Is the low jack also like 1100 too? Just out of curiosity, or deeper?
Yeah, I think he might have been 1000, but yeah, pretty much the same.
All right. So limp, kind of a late position limp. Hero ISOs, ace queen off to 45, folds to the straddle, the occasional straddle, very rec player you want in the game. He calls, the limper calls. So we're probably at like 145 with the blinds, something like that. Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right. And then so we go to the flop, and it is jack of diamonds, 4 of clubs, 2 of hearts.
Jack of diamonds, 4 of clubs, 2 of hearts. Hero with ace queen offsuit with the ace of diamonds. I know you're a CLP subscriber. What do I usually call this type of board, even though it's not really 9-4 deuce? Sometimes we'll call these boards certain names.
I think you're getting at it's kind of dynamic.
Top board dynamic. It's not the best example, but you've got a lot of good things going on here with the when I say top pair dynamic, it usually means that top pair sort of fares to change, which is like, I use the example like 8-3 a lot, or 7-3 rainbow, where it's just like, there's so many overcards that can come. But this one's so disconnected that you have a situation here where, unless somebody's flopped a set. Now, I mean, the straddle's in there, but if people are playing even somewhat reasonable ranges and you get boards where 2 pair is not possible, then I would consider that not textured, and it's usually good for barreling, right? Because you don't have to worry. It's not like it's even like Jack 6-7. Jack 6-7 and Jack 4 deuce are really, really different. Not even just in the fact that 6-7 is out there as 2-pair, but then there's just more hands that are continuing because of certain draws, like straight draws and things like that. So, I mean, you're 3 now. Sometimes, like if you were heads up, we're getting ahead of ourselves. If it was just the straddle versus you, this might be a spot where you might just check and try to get to showdown with ace queen. You know, kind of like one of the best non-pair hands. But 3 ways, yeah, I would probably start a bet if that's what's going to happen. Does it get checked to you?
Yes, it does.
All right. And what do you do?
So I bet 50.
Okay. Your bet's 50, 1/3. Yep.
And then the straddle calls and the low jack folds.
All right. So the straddle, who you say is kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
Straddle calls, next to act, low jack folds. The only reason why I bring that up is because the straddle might not have any awareness really of the fact that there's a guy behind him. So if that's the case, he could be much, much wider than he should be. Could be calling with any piece of this, right? Like 5-4, deuce 3, something like that.
Yeah, a lot of weak hands that can continue.
All right, so deuce 4, 5. Oh, excuse me, Jack 4 deuce. $245 in the pot right now. Okay. Yep.
And then so the turn is the 8 of diamonds.
So 8 of diamonds turn. Now, a couple of things that are interesting about this card. I would say this is certainly a brick. It doesn't interact with the board, right?
Yep.
Doesn't interact with the board. It's also an overcard to second pair. Obviously, if it's an overcard to second pair, it's an overcard to third pair. Why that's important in this case, especially with this setup, you can almost treat this like the straddle's kind of closing the action on the flop from this given background, is that if you bet again here, it's very difficult for him to now call with anything that's not, he's not calling with 5-4. I mean, maybe he's not supposed to be calling with like 5-4, deuces, things like that. Different than if the board was like Jack 8 deuce 4. Like if it was Jack 8 deuce 4, or if it was Jack 8 deuce, and now the turn's a 4, he still might call with an 8, right? If you double barrel turn, if he doesn't believe you, but now it's different. The other thing too, this is very, very slight, is that you've got, when you get into the weeds of combinations and how you're supposed to structure certain like triple barrels, you have the ace of diamonds in your hand. So kind of times when you run this through the computer, it will have you tripling across diamond runouts here as well. And obviously if you had started with ace queen of diamonds and started a C bet here, you'd be barreling this turn. So if it gets checked to you, I'm going to bet again. I'm going to probably see, depending on the sizing that you used, I'm going to kind of maybe try to get some sort of read as to how this guy might have called, whether or not I want to triple barrel on the river, depending on what the river comes. That's my take. He checks to you, I assume.
Yeah, he does.
Okay. And
I bet 175.
Okay. So you must have probably been thinking some of the things that I just talked about, right? Did you notice the ace of diamonds in your hand?
Yes, I
Okay.
did. And that's, I don't know, I admitted, like, I love taking those type of lines and trying to find them and stuff. So, like, probably too much. So,
too much. Too much for practicality.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely something I was thinking that on a diamond river, we were gonna kind of blast it. And then on some other, like, bricky-ish rivers, you might just kind of give up, because once he calls turn, like you said, he shouldn't be really calling turn with anything that's worse than a jack. And on a brick river, I don't think a jack's gonna fold really. So
you bet 175 and he called?
Yeah.
Now, did you get any type of, again, like, I'm not big on live tells. I'm not really big on live tells, except for a couple of specific types of things. And I always talk about my number one thing is bet pacing. We've talked about that before, but this is another one here too, where sometimes you can kind of suss out by the way that somebody calls, whether or not, it's hard to say, like whether it's a top pair call or something where where they're working in their head, where they might have had like 5-6 and they picked up diamonds, or like 7-4 of diamonds, because the turn's a diamond. So there's always that possibility that they had something that picked up diamonds? Because the 8 doesn't really interact with anything in another way. So did you get anything off of the way that he called at all?
He called, like, he didn't seem like it wasn't like a snap call or anything, but it didn't seem like he was, like, he probably thought for like 10 or so, maybe 15 seconds and then called. Like, he didn't seem like he was contemplating super hard.
So 350 here in on the turn, and now we're at 595, and you guys have put in 225, 270. So you have just a little bit over 800 left effective, 595. Okay. So Jack of diamonds, 4 of clubs, deuce of hearts. Hero starts his triple barrel with the ace queen into 2 people, bets 50. Straddle calls next to act. Who's a recreational player? Low jack folds, turns the 8 of diamonds, Jack of diamonds, 4 of clubs, deuce of hearts, 8 of diamonds. Straddle checks. Hero goes 175. Straddle calls, and now we're at 595. What's the river?
The river is the king of diamonds.
Oh, wow. King of diamonds.
Kind of saw that and I was like, well, that's the card to go for it on.
Now, what if it wasn't the king of diamonds? What if it was the king of clubs?
That one, I don't know. I kind of think you still have to bet just because it, like, people really don't. I mean, like, you kind of talk about sometimes, I guess it's like different line, but like when overcards come out and people bet, like, you should maybe be overcalling, but
so
that's a different line, I guess.
I want to point something out because I might have misspoke, because this is actually a good point. Luis Castillo says, if you bluff a diamond on the river, you prefer to unblock the diamonds. Bluffing with the ace of diamonds in your hand is not optimal, or it's less good. And so if you start a backdoor bluff with, like, say you had ace queen of clubs, right, or something like that, and then now the turn's a diamond, if you don't have diamonds in your hand, I suppose the argument is that that's less of a chance that your opponent, well, there's more of a chance that your opponent, like, is on a backdoor diamond draw and then now has missed. Whereas if you have the ace of diamonds in your hand, there's less of a chance that he's missed a backdoor diamond draw. But now when the diamond comes in, though, when you have the ace of diamonds in your hand, isn't that that's the play? He's got less of a chance of having the backdoor. Right? Am I saying that right? Yeah, right?
So, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so getting back to what I was saying on the offsuit king, I would assume that you would still, I mean, once he calls turn here, and here's the other thing too, right? Like, he can still have some backdoor flushes, but as I point out a lot of the time, the fact, if he does check, the fact that he will sometimes lead backdoor flushes when he makes them, if he checks, it means that there's less of a chance that he has a backdoor flush. Now, when he's got the back, so if it was an offsuit king and he checked, I don't know how I wouldn't barrel there, though, to be honest with you. I mean, unless you just thought the guy was just, like, never going to fold a jack, but.
Yeah. I think on, like, an offsuit card that's, like, exactly a king, it's kind of, right. Yeah, you kind of still have to just go for it. But yeah, I think what that guy was saying kind of makes sense when the river isn't a diamond. And then we just kind of, I would think, have to give up a lot.
Right, right. So this seems like the best of all worlds, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He checks, I assume?
Yeah, he does check. My main, like, question here is just trying to pick the sizing that's most, like, efficient. Like, how much do we have to?
Well, that's an interesting thing that you said, efficient, right? Because as I looked down, Nate said, let's just rip it. Which is good. I mean, which is, like I said, I mean, that's definitely something that you can do. And again, it gives your opponent a worse price on his bluff. The little quirk about live poker that I would say is, no matter what sizing you use here as a bluff, right? You want to get the most amount of folds. Can we all agree on that? That we want to get him to fold the most percentage of the time, right? And you would say, well, if I've got, what did we say, like 870 left, then moving all in will get the most amount of folds. What if I were to tell you that sometimes betting less actually gets more folds? And you'd say, like, what do you mean? He's getting a better price. the quirk about live poker sometimes is that like when guys will see sometimes like somebody take a line like this and then overbet all in, they'll be like, this guy's trying to bluff me. And then in other situations, like they'll be like, this guy's polarized, even though they don't know what polarized means. And sometimes you will actually get called at the same or at a higher frequency with a larger bluff size than what you would with a smaller bluff size. Now, that's not mathematically sound. I know that, but I'm telling you what the reality of that is. I don't know if that's what you're asking me about with efficiency here.
No, yeah, definitely. Like trying to, or more like at some point, like maybe if, I don't know, 500 would get the same amount of folds as jamming, then just go 500 to lose less when we get called.
Right. That's really what it is. And I think you said you had 870 left, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was like around 850.
But the other thing though too is like if the guy's not really a thinking player all that much, you could just kind of blast him out with absolute sizing though too. I mean, there's different kinds of recreational players. There's just some guys that like they don't understand this stuff, and it's just going to be like one of these things where his hand's not strong enough to call an all in with a jack. So you could make a case where it's just a rip city, like with that. Whereas you feel like a fool if you bet 500 and then he like tanks for 5 minutes and calls you with like queen jack. You know what I mean? Where you're like, oh shit, I could have ripped it in and you would have folded in a spot like that. So that's kind of the thing. It's real. I mean, I don't think that there's any way if you moved all in here that this guy would just call with like a single paired jack. And he's in the straddle. There's less of a chance that he ran into king jack, and he can be kind of wide. So again, efficiency wise, if you think the same, you're going to get the same fold equity as 500 as a jam, then fine. I just don't know if that's actually the case though. You could make a case that ripping could be better. I just tend to go like chunky value sizing here. A lot of times, like, yeah, I might just bet 600 kind of in between. It's a little bit subtle. What did you end up deciding on? I hope you bet, right?
Yeah. No, I jammed.
You jammed. Okay. So hero jams. Yeah.
And I mean, I was kind of thinking like he's going to fold a jack pretty quickly. But then, yeah, he starts tanking and he's like,
did anybody ever tell you that you sound a little bit like Nate Silver?
Do you know who that is? I've never gotten that, but I do.
Just the way that you talk. Just the way that you talk that. I had drinks with Nate Silver over the summer. It was pretty fun.
He seems like a cool guy.
Yeah. So you jammed and now he's tanking. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then he's like kind of like staring me down and he says, this is like a really good bet by you because you either have it or you don't. And I have 2 pair. And so I don't really know what to do.
Okay, so he says he has 2 pair. So I assume he ran into king jack then, we're assuming probably. The way that this one went down, there's a really good chance he ran into king jack because unless he just called with jack 8 on the turn, that would be probably your best case scenario. I don't know if this guy's got... That would put a pit in my stomach here, Sam, if he just said, I have 2 pair. Now, maybe he's not telling the truth, but if he is... let's just put it this way. If he checked the river and I knew this guy had king jack, I would give up. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So this might put a pit in my stomach here.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to like not move at all. Like not like pretend I didn't hear it because I was like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, eventually he just folded.
But did you ever see what he had though?
No, he didn't show.
I don't know if I believe him.
Yeah, I don't know. He seemed pretty genuine. Like he seemed pretty distraught.
I don't know, man. I mean, listen, here's the thing about jamming though, too. Like, again, what I was talking about, like, it comes to certain points too, where it's like, okay, well, you didn't, if he actually folded 2 pair, he probably would have called for 500, right? So the jam is proper, but a lot of times, I don't know, you use a term like these recreational players that it's not, they're either going to call or they're not with a hand like 2 pair. It doesn't matter what the sizing is. It's not like you're betting like 10,000 into 500, right? So that's why I'm a little hesitant to believe, but you're saying he tanked for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. He tanked for like a solid 2 minutes.
Yeah. Did you show him the bluff?
I showed the ace of diamonds, but I didn't show.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I felt like if I showed both my cards, it might kind of like perturb him. And
yeah, I agree with you. Mathemagical 55 says I don't show him the bluff. You want to keep him folding strong hands. Absolutely. That's what whenever anybody asks me about, do you have a strategy for showing hands? And I always say, not really, but I tend to show way more good hands than my bluffs. Because again, just like having, like I feel strongly about a short-term good image, if people think that you have it a lot, you get to win a lot of non-shown down hands, and you don't make a lot of hands and hold them. So that's kind of the image that I somewhat strive for a little bit. So thanks very much for the call. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Bart.
All right.